welcome to the Art of Costume podcast. I am your host, Spencer Williams, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Thanks for being here. I'm very excited about today's episode. It is just me today, but of course we'll be joined by a special guest very shortly, as today we're talking about the new hit series on Apple TV, The Studio, which of course follows the life of, well, basically anyone who works in film and television. We're talking about the Continental Studios, how the movies are made, and all the fun costuming that comes along with it. And we're going to be joined by costume designer Kameron Lennox to help break us all down, all the on-set antics, from everything from dressing the Golden Globes to designing the Kool-Aid Man, and of course dumping a bunch of chili on one of our favorite characters. We're going to get into all of it right after the break, so I hope you'll enjoy. In the meantime, I also want to mention that our Andor episode has been postponed at the moment. We're still working out some scheduling with costume designer Michael Wilkinson, so we hope to bring that to you soonish, at some point in the near future, because I know you're all very excited. Andor season 2 was fantastic. And with the studio episode, it's going to lead us into a few episodes where we really get into a lot of our favorite hit TV series. I'm talking about some of our favorites, like The Righteous Gemstones, perhaps, or maybe even The Last of Us. I don't know. There's lots of good stuff coming, so I hope you'll stay tuned with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube so you can watch these conversations between myself, Elizabeth, and costume designers. And I hope you all enjoy. Now, without further ado, please welcome costume designer Kameron Lennox.
Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, go to tpublic.com/user/theartofcostume, where you can buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show.
I am so happy to welcome back my friend, costume designer Kameron Lennox. Hey, Cammy, how are you?
Hi, good. Nice to see you, Spencer.
It's been a while. It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
Gosh, you were like one of my first interviews way back when I started this, I swear. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, that kind of leads into what I was getting ready to start with. So our first interview was a few years ago now, talking about Pam and Tommy, which is a series that I loved. Also featured Seth Rogen, who was executive producer as well as cast at that time. Now, today we're talking about The Studio, creator, writer, producer, actor, all the things. So tell me about signing on to this project and why this professional relationship between you and Seth Rogen works so well.
Oh, that's a good question. Initially, I got the call for The Studio. You know, I mean, I've been on Platonic with Seth, and we did Pam and Tommy, and then we also did Dumb Money. And when I did, the first time I met him was Pam and Tommy, and it was just a very easy relationship. You know, he's very easy to work with. He's very easygoing. Right. And then Craig, you know, on Dumb Money, it was with Craig, and then it was like, hey, how's it going? And then we did Platonic, and, you know, it just became this thing. But so then I got the call that both Seth and Evan wanted to meet with me about this new show, and they sent me the script, and I read the script, and I immediately was like, yes, this is so 100% my, like, I will drop everything to do this. But I think in my mind, I thought like I still had to audition for it, even though, you know, because we had worked together a few times, but it wasn't really in the capacity that like that The Studio is. And so when we were talking, it was like all the producers, we were in a Zoom, and Seth and Evan just immediately started talking about the look of the show and you know, the palette and these very fine-tuned details. And, you know, I kind of like all of a sudden it hit me that this wasn't an audition, that we were actually talking, you know, like it was happening.
And so I had notes.
I was like, wait a minute. I was like, are you guys meeting with other designers? And they're like, no. And so then it was like, oh, okay. which was funny.
Yeah, what a relief.
But yeah, what a relief. I mean, nobody wants to have to audition. But yeah, I mean, I was very grateful that they thought of me, of course. It is those guys are so nice and so great to work with, and this is their baby. And immediately it was something that I related to, just as far as design. Growing up in LA, my mom was born in LA, like there's just so much history there. I've always loved the history of the golden era. When they started talking about the fictitious studio, immediately in my mind, I was like, this is a great chance to kind of filter in a lot of fashions from that time. And, I mean, we've all watched all the Criterion collection, all these old films. And it was like, wow, I might have a chance to incorporate this. And then when Seth was talking about his character and the suits and, he has these cars and the architecture. I mean, we're talking about Julie's production design of what the ideas that she was coming up with. And it was very easy to kind of see what this world was starting to shape up to be. And I was like, 100%, let's go, let's do this.
I'm sure so many people, why I love this show and so many people others, is just the realism of it in terms of being on set and us being LA people. It feels, well, of course they go through some wild adventures in some of these episodes. It still in ways feels like home. So how has your own experience on set as a costume designer helped influence the look of the show in terms of the costumes and the storytelling?
I mean, there's a lot of personals. I mean, I think as a costume designer, and any costume designer can attest to this, that we've all tried out different looks throughout the years, because we're very interested in this, like, character, like how people carry themselves. And I think when you try so many different things out, you're able to kind of incorporate it into your stories. And so there's a lot of personal choices that I've made in my life as just working in the industry, like going to work in suits and ties. There's a whole phase of my life that I did that. And it made me feel very confident and, so it was fun. Actually, I brought in a lot of my own personal ties for Chase's character, for Quinn.
I was gonna say it's Quinn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Quinn. It's Quinn. Yeah, when my kids saw the show, they were like, "Oh, yeah, there's mom right there," because they've seen me go through they've seen me go through so many different phases. But I mean, the jokes land, they really land with, just working in this business. The idea, I think too, it's like the glamorous side of Hollywood really was decades ago, it was eras ago. And to kind of recreate that and bring it in. I think we all get into this business because we think it's glamorous and it's really not. And so it was for me fulfilling that dream of, living that glamorous Hollywood lifestyle. And, and also just celebrating Hollywood for what it was. Seth said something, he was like, well, comedy doesn't have to look bad. Like, we can make comedy look good. And, and I just really kept thinking about that, like, as we were developing these characters, like how we want them to really portray their own uniqueness, but like, how can we make them look really good?
Sure. Yeah. Which, I mean, that leads us to our main character, Matt, who's the newly appointed head of the film production company, Continental Studios, which is a cool name, by the way. Matt is a big film fan, and he wants to create these really fun artistic films. But of course, he realizes that's not really business he's in. And he takes on this job very suddenly, he like overnight almost. So if that, his evolution almost feels like he kind of jumps into this role overnight. So I was wondering how you kind of approach this character and this evolution we see in his suiting, where he kind of has to become the head figure in a couple hours, it seems like. Yeah.
I mean, the way that I think I saw it was, the outside doesn't really match the inside. Like I felt like this character, like you said, was really into film. Maybe he watched like, a ton of French New Wave films, and he really like identified with Alain Delon and his like sports cars and his suits and his like coolness. And he now works in the industry, and so that's how he portrays himself. We also, our world of Continental is a very particular palette, and that was on purpose. Because we wanted it to feel like its own world, and anybody that was from the outside were in different palettes or different types of dress. And so we already knew the palette that we were going to go for. Yeah. I mean, the suits, when we first meet him, it's like, he's got the, he portrays himself as something, but then there's just this nervous wreck inside of him. And, but we did try to do some, add some little Easter eggs where, like, as the series goes on, his lapels start to grow. There's like some of them that are a peak lapel, and we would joke, like, if you could stand behind him and see it peeking up, then like he's on fire, like he's on the top of his game. His ego is like, he thinks he's all that, so we would like play around with that. And that actually happens more when you get to the end of our season in Las Vegas and all of that. But, yeah, I mean, he takes everything very seriously, and it's probably why he's still single. He's very particular. He likes things his way. Yeah, I mean, he devotes more time into himself than he probably, would give to somebody else. I don't know. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah. It's been really fun every episode to kind of see a little bit of how he reacts to help build this profile throughout the season. I haven't seen the finale, but I've seen everything up to the finale. So I'm excited to see how he handles this, which I'm going to guess is not good, but we'll see. I'm in love with the one take filming of the studio. Of course, though, I'll admit it really keeps my blood pressure at like an all-time high with some of these stressful situations. But with that approach, I feel like every detail really matters as you're walking through these sets, because you see a lot of characters in the background, extras, other characters having conversations. So the details really matter. So I really want to take this moment to really hear about how you and your team, your crew, were able to pull off these large scale scenes. And I also want to do a big shout out to your assistant costume designer, Tyler Kinney, who I've gotten to know over the past couple of years. I'm just so excited to see him on this with you. So tell me about the crew.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a village for sure, as we know. There's some of these episodes were so background heavy, and yeah, it took very well organized, orchestrated systems, and I have an incredible crew to do that. I have an incredible supervisor, my background key, all the fitters, all the people that came in. We were based at Warner Brothers in one of the bungalows, and then down in the cages, we just had a whole shop set up, and it was just racks and racks, and it depended. It was like, I think we did the Golden Globes, and we shot the pediatric oncologist. Yeah. Those episodes kind of around the same time. So we had a couple weeks. So it was just a full machine of people coming in and going through the system of fittings, and then everyone bagging them, tagging them, altering them. It was just this, it was kind of amazing. And I'm so grateful for my crew. I have a great cutter fitter. I have, a lot of the suits were made right there at Warner Brothers and in their, in their workroom there.
Sure.
It also felt like, going back to that, bookending, as like they talk about in the show, is that it felt like the way that we used to make films. Like, we had the in-house workhouse, we had, the workroom, we had everything there on the lot, and working at Warner Brothers really felt like that. Like, we had our little golf carts that we drove around to set, and then we'd go pick up the clothes, and it kind of was this meta feeling of making a show about the making of films, on the lot.
Yeah, I mean, how classic Hollywood can you get than being on the studio backlots, seeing all these like characters and random costumes in the background? I mean, I love that.
Yeah. And Seth and Evan, they had a lot of really good notes. When we were shooting scenes when they're driving around on the back lot, we had, a lot of, like some cigarette girls or some cowboy film, a lot of the background, we try to make it feel like what it would be like in the olden days when you drive around on the lot. Sure. And see these characters just hanging out, smoking cigarettes or whatever.
It reminded me of like that Pee-wee's Big Adventure scene where they're just driving through the lots and all sorts of crazy stuff's happening. I love that.
Yeah.
Another person who's just been on fire lately and is in the studio, Kathryn Hahn, who plays Maya, who is, I mean, there's a lot happening there with this character. She's very cool, very trendy, but then almost over the top where it feels like she has everything going on at the same time. And I love her for that.
And too much going on.
This must have been a fun character for you to work with, where you really got to push the design here.
When this character was first written, it was kind of a gray area of where it was going to go. And I think we were waiting to see who they were going to cast in that role. And once it landed on Kathryn, it just felt like there was like a light bulb that went off in everyone's head. And both Seth and Evan were like, have fun with this. There's these women in the industry. They were talking about like certain women that they knew. And then I was like, oh, I know those women too. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that it matches their energy and intensity, right? Yeah. The amount of like jewelry that they'll wear, or just like too many labels, like pick one and just have one, like where you're like, okay, I see you have money and, maybe you're trying to relive your youth, or there's something that stuck with you. I mean, there's definitely something that stuck with me that makes me make choices, all of us, for how we dress and how we present ourselves to the world. And, the note that I got from Evan was that she's, in her 40s or 50s. She considers herself very in touch with the youth and uses, certain terminology. She dresses too young for her age. And they were like, just have fun with it. And that I have to say is so nice working with them, is they're always like, just have fun with it. Just,
it'll work out. Thing. Whatever you do, I'm sure it'll be awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust there. And, which is nice. But so when Kathryn came in, we just went to town. We were like, let's go. Let's go. Let's see what we can pull together. And she's so great because she comes in and she's just like so full of excitement and loves to play and loves to dress up. And I think it was the first time I saw my Taylor, who works with us, in there, like she was crying, laughing, like she couldn't contain herself. And this was just with Kathryn trying things on, and work in the room.
Yeah. Like, be careful. There's dangerous equipment here.
Yeah. I mean, but I do know women that, I have friends that wear all their golden diamonds all at once, all their Cartier bracelets, all of them, not just one or two, but every single one, and just kind of load up. And, I think that they've gotten to a point where they're proving something to themselves and to the world, and that they feel, comfortable doing it. And that, I've gotten a lot of notes from people in the industry that have said to me like, oh yeah, I know that woman.
Yeah. We all know one.
Or
that's so funny.
She's like an agent or a manager or publicist or something, that comes around, and she had, she's not afraid. I also liked this like notion too, that because she's of the age that she is, like she's still holding on to something. Like when MTV music videos, it was like big production, Beyonce or J-Lo, or even when J-Lo was a fly girl in Living Color, like there's something that stuck. And so it's like the hair choices, or just,
That's
we
totally
would
what
joke
it is.
around. There was one outfit that which came out. We were like, oh yeah, welcome to the Thunderdome. Like because her hair was like big. We were like, what is she today?
Yeah, I was like, wow, like her hair is very metallic. There's like a lot going on
Yeah.
here that like she kept whipping it in the camera, and I was like, oh
yeah.
wow, that's so cool.
Oh yeah. She used everything as a prop. She's great. She's amazing.
Perfect for this role.
Yes.
Let's talk about one other silly costume before we get into the Golden Globes, which I'm sure is serious business. There's an episode where Sal Saperstein is at war with Quinn, who we talked about. Long story short, he ends up with chili thrown all over his suit, and he has to wear that chili suit for a while. And I just thought, I mean, I'm not going to not ask you about the chili suit. That's a lot of fun. I mean, how continuity.
There's a lot of discussion. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion around what color chili, what color suit. We did some color tests. We did a chili test. Yeah, that was interesting. Of course, we had to, pick a lighter color because we want to make sure that we got the chili had its full glory. So when he's like walking up the steps and Parker Finn is there and they have that conversation, he just needed to look disgusting. And he did. And Ike is, Ike is one of those people that is just plugged in. Like he's just like, he comes in with that energy. And so him with the chili and hitting his nose and all the things that happened to him. It's like his worst day ever. But yeah, we had multiples. We had a ton of multiples.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
just a rack of chili suits.
Yeah. And matching the chili. Yeah. Disgusting. So and then it was bagged up in our trailer with the chili on it for a long time. And we're just like, oh.
Yeah. Are you still a chili fan after this? Or
No. No.
Well, when I heard there was a Golden Globes episode, I was just buzzing. I could not wait to see this episode. So I binged all the way till I got to, I was like, I gotta see this. That sounds like something incredibly difficult to pull off to me. But for me, this episode is all about one of the greatest actresses of all time, Catherine O'Hara as Patty, and my ultimate celebrity crush, Zoe Kravitz. I saw you tease a little bit about their looks on Instagram. So I'd love for you to kind of walk through what we're seeing on each of these two leading ladies as they accept their award.
I was really excited for that episode to come out, especially those dresses. I mean, when you find those, when you see something and that's all you can think about for that role and for that scene, and then you have the fitting and then it fits and it works and then they shoot it and then you get to see it play out. It's very exciting. There's such a, in our job, it's not just like you find something and, oh, this will work. It goes through so many, people and, processes before you get to that point. But so the dress that Kathryn wears is Jenny Packham, who is a designer out of London. She does a lot of these beautiful beaded dresses and sequin dresses, and I was looking for something for her that upped the ante because she is basically that woman that's been in the business for so long, and she would wear something. It couldn't just be off the rack, somewhere. Right. It needed to be a very special piece, and especially for Kathryn, who's a queen, I don't want to disappoint her. I was like, here's your gown, madame. But it was like when I saw that, it was that dress specifically, and I had to go up the chain of, producers to get it approved because I was like, there is nothing out there in the world that is better than this for her. Mm-hmm. And luckily, they all granted my wish and I was able to get it for her, and she loved it. But it was just like, it was in her palette. It was, it had these like structured shoulders and the beading, there was just this beautiful encrusted area. And, right here on the dress that I'm always thinking about frame, like how are they going to frame her if she's speaking, like, if that's all we see, because you never know how much you're going to see before you shoot. So luckily that thing just slipped on her and we didn't need to do any alterations or anything. Nice. And she was so happy when we fit her in that. And she looked amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, she, you know what, before we started this project, I was a little, I wouldn't say nervous. It was more excited, but I didn't want to do anything that she'd done before, because she's done so many characters, and she, you know, she's been around for quite a while, and so I was trying to make this character very unique, something new that we hadn't seen her as. And then for Zoe, when they cast her to be in it, she is sponsored by YSL.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of talk that she was going to wear something from them. But then Zoe herself had said, like, well, it's me, but I'm not, this isn't a real event. So why don't I play a character? And then that kind of opened the door for me to kind of pull some things together. And we talked about the color pink because it would be something that she would never wear in real life. She's like, I want to be this bratty, you know, pink is kind of bratty and, you know, and princess or whatever. And so I fortunately found that John Galliano for a Christian Dior dress that just had this like beautiful detail on it. It was in her size. That was another one where I had to go up the chain of command, just say like, I found the other perfect dress. Believe me and trust me, this is going to look great. You know, yada, yada, yada. Sent it to Zoe. She liked it. And so, yeah, the rest is history. It's there. But I was just so relieved that they both, you know, I was able to, because it's very important that it feels like the real Golden Globes.
Yeah.
Seth wears a Brunello Cucinelli tuxedo in this one. So that was a perfect fit. We had to custom make the other one for the pediatric oncology episode. But this one, it was luckily we could just get him into that suit for that. And then there was the millions and millions of background, and then all of our cameos that came in.
Oh gosh.
It was another machine, and it took my amazing crew to pull that off. I mean, I'm still surprised that we did it, but we did it happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the questions I was like a little nervous to ask him. Like, did they just film this at the Golden Globes? But like, no, you all actually worked in a lot of these.
Every single person there was dressed head to toe. And that
crazy.
that was weeks of pre-fitting everybody and putting up, you know, boards to look at them all together. And
that's insane.
Yeah.
I was like kind of wondering, I'm like, I don't know. That just seems like such a crazy thing to do, but you all did it. So it really worked out.
Yeah. I mean, we shot it in the same hotel too, that the Golden Globes, and we just camped out there for a few days. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. They're long days.
Yeah. You mentioned cameos. The studio works very cleverly in a ton of cameos. Really, I'm sure really keeps you and your team on your feet. And I'm sure every case is different. My favorites were definitely Ice Cube and Sarah Polley. I thought that she was just so genius. And then of course there's Martin Scorsese. So how do cameos work with your department? Because I'm sure, you know, you're probably not working with everyone, but maybe every once in a while. I don't know. How does that work?
We worked with most everyone. Yeah. I mean, we were an all service department. You know, we wanted people to come in, especially directors that never get that kind of treatment, you know, like come to the fitting. We'll talk about your, you know, and we had racks of clothes. Obviously they're racks of clothes. If they're playing themselves, because not everybody played themselves, but if they're playing themselves, we made sure that we did all of our recent research to see how they were dressing. And Sarah Polley kind of nailed it on the head. I was looking at photos of her. I was like, oh, it's this brand. You know, I started naming them, brought them in, and then she came in. She was like, oh, you just raided my closet. She was like, funny. Yeah, she was funny. She was great.
But yeah, like people like Sarah Polley and Ron Howard, they're not probably used to getting the whole costume treatment.
Yeah. Both of them. Yeah. We just had racks of things that they wear. Ron Howard was great. He was so great.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. And did you get to work with Ice Cube?
So Ice Cube had his own entourage, his own people that
Okay.
came in to do him. Yeah.
That's
We
what
did
I
everyone else, but Ice Cube. Yeah.
thought. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of brings us to the end. Looking back on this first season, I love it and I can't wait to see what happens next, especially in the finale. But what has this series meant to you so far as the world's starting to see? And what do you hope people take away from their experience watching the studio and seeing all these costumes?
Well, of course, I hope that they enjoy it and that they, find some inspiration from it. I think there's a fine line when you are dressing people in, it's modern and contemporary, but you're adding a lot of vintage to make sure it doesn't feel too period. And I hope that the subtle little things that we did, there's a lot of Easter eggs all through it, especially for film. Like there's so many things that we were like, this is like in that film, or, like that we were trying to incorporate into the show. And I just hope that people are able to watch it a second time and kind of pick up on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful I was able to do it. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I had a lot of fun doing it. I mean,
It's so much fun. This has been amazing. I can't wait to see the finale. I hope one day to see at least a half-hour Kool-Aid movie. We'll see. I need some sort of.
We custom made a Kool-Aid. You'll see. You'll see
the one that came down the ceiling.
So there was that guy was going to be featured much more. So we from scratch. We custom made that thing, and that thing was the biggest thorn in my side. I will say that whole season of getting all the things done for it. But there's a custom suit he's wearing. It's got Swarovski crystals on it. It's hand painted. That jug was handmade. It was like molded and then painted. It was an ordeal. And so I hope in that quick amount of time we do see it, that you do get to see some of the detail that we did on that.
It was very cool when I saw it. I was like, thank goodness when I saw it come down from the ceiling. I'm like, there has to be some sort of Kool-Aid, something that Cameron got to do. So worth the wait. Costume designer Kameron Lennox, thank you so much for talking with me. I can't wait for the finale, and I hope you'll come back for whatever you're doing next, because it's always so fun talking to you.
Thank you so much, Spencer.